and to welcome those of you who are joining us online. It's great for us to be able to come together and to be able to worship, and to think about this relationship that we have with Jesus, and how that can work for us, or how it does work for us, or how we can continue to step into new and deeper ways of having it work for us. And so in the gospel lesson, we have just this great little story about somebody for whom that was the case, who starts his journey as a follower of Jesus. Now, so just to set the table a little bit for us, so we know that this man's name is Bartimaeus, and we know that his father's name is Timaeus. And it's interesting that Mark, in writing the gospel, tells us that, because most of the time when Jesus does healings, we don't know particularly the name, the identity of the person who's healed. It's a blind man or a leper. But in this case, we know not only his name, but we know his father. And so it's a little curious. It kind of gets our attention. And then at the end of the verse, there's maybe another clue. At the end of the reading, it says, after the healing has happened, it says, in that very instant, he recovered his sight and followed Jesus down the road. And followed him down the road. So what does that mean? Does it mean you just follow him down the road for a little bit? Well, so Jesus is now leaving Jericho to go to Jerusalem, which is very close. And what's next going to happen is the triumphal entry, what we celebrate on Palm Sunday. And so is it possible that Bartimaeus, now having received his sight, is going to stick with Jesus and go through the events of that day? So see him enter into Jerusalem and then go through the events with the other people who are following Jesus, to go through the events of Holy Week, to be able to see on Good Friday that Jesus is betrayed, that he's hung on a cross. And this person who just gave him sight less than a week ago is all of a sudden dead, buried in the ground. And so he weeps and mourns with all of the others who love Jesus. And then all of a sudden on Easter Sunday, there's a resurrection in the empty tomb. And so he hears about that. And then we know that Jesus appeared to numbers of other folks. Did Jesus appear to him? I don't know. But it's significant that the gospel writer tells us his name, as if, Mark is writing this years later, but he still uses the guy's name. So the likelihood might be that Bartimaeus is still around. And so people might have known Bartimaeus. And so somebody would say, so who's that guy? And they say, oh, Bart. Oh, that's Bart. Well, let me tell you the story about Bart. This is how Bart got here, and tell the story about this. And how it is that Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, became a follower of Jesus. And so now all of a sudden, now Bartimaeus is really in some ways being held up as a model for us, for what it means to become a follower of Jesus, what it is that makes us a follower of Jesus. And so Bartimaeus becomes a teacher by just who he was and the things that he did. So we can look at him and tease apart a little bit this encounter that he has with Jesus that is so transforming for him, and then ask some of those questions about ourselves. What does this mean for me? And so if we kind of tease it apart a little bit, so the first thing that Bartimaeus knew is he knew he had a need. That he had a need. So there was a discontent in his life, and he didn't want it to stay like that, and so he wanted that to change. And so we might think, oh, well, duh, he's blind, and he wants to see. Well, so what's the big deal about that? Well, there were lots of people who were blind during the time of Jesus. We know the stories of healing for some of them, but there were lots of people who didn't receive healing who were blind during the time of Jesus. So there was something about Bartimaeus who recognized that he had this need, this lack, and he was not content with it. He was going to do something about it. He knew he had a need, and he didn't want to let things just continue to go on that way. And, there were lots of people then around the time of Jesus, around Jesus, that didn't realize that they had needs. The Pharisees, they were perfectly sufficient. They were doing good. They were in power. They were perfectly happy. But Jesus called them blind guides. They were blind, but they didn't know it, and they weren't doing anything about it. The rich young ruler came to Jesus. He thought he had a certain need, but Jesus revealed to him that he had an addiction, and this addiction was to money and possessions. And he couldn't relax his grip. And so he went away, we're told, sad, even though Jesus loved him. He had a need, and he couldn't recognize that need. It reminds me of this great passage in the book of Revelation. There are these 7 churches, and the angels send letters to each of the churches. It's a fascinating kind of synopsis of each of the conditions of these different churches. There's a church in Laodicea, the city of Laodicea, and it's a very happening place. It's wealthy, it's industrious, lots of good things, lots of affluence going on in that place. And so this letter comes to the leaders in that church, and it says, and so the angel is saying to that church, he says, "You say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth and do not need a thing, but you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire so that you can become rich, and white clothes to wear so you can cover your shameful nakedness, and salve to put on your eyes so that you can see. Those whom I love I rebuke and discipline, so be earnest and repent. Here I am, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with him, and he with me." Again, people who felt like they had no needs, but their needs were profound. Blind spots all over the place for them. And so then we come back to this question, what do we need? And how do you know what you need? And so the example that we have is the example of Bartimaeus, who knows that he needs something from Jesus. And so for us, as we look at Jesus as the one who is kind of the fulfiller, the one who is the embodiment of what is a fulfilled human life, we look at him, and then we say, well, so then how do I get closer to that? Do I need eyes to be able to see like he sees? Do I need ears to be able to hear like he hears? Do I need a heart that is quickly moved by the things that move his heart? Not just by the stuff that we put up with all day long. So this invitation for us as we do our daily prayers to be thinking about, Lord God, help me to see what I need. Help me to hear like you hear. Help me to have a heart that cares about the things that you care about. A great thing to include in our daily prayers. And then the second thing that Bartimaeus did was he not only knew his need, but he did something about it. He screamed his head off. He asked. And so we don't know about what he heard about Jesus. Certainly people were talking about Jesus during the time. This is towards the end of his ministry. He's just going to Jerusalem. So the rumors about him must have been many. And this was his opportunity, probably unexpected. He heard that Jesus was going by his way and probably never have an opportunity like this again. And so the crowd comes, Jesus comes by, and he just opens his mouth, and he cries out. He makes a noise, makes a mess, and people say around him, Stop. Shh. Quiet down. You're just making a fool out of yourself. Just go away. Just go in a corner. Be quiet. Be submissive. Have you heard people tell you that before? He'll have none of it. He'll have none of it. The more they say, keep quiet, don't make a scene, the bigger scene he makes. Hi. We are prepared. Well, I love the ambiance of the candles. Let there be light. Let there be light. So we'll keep working on. Prepare. We are prepared for anything. Jesus did it. Who knows? So Bartimaeus will have none of it. He will make a sound. He will ask. He will ask, and he will ask, and he will ask, and he'll ask louder, and he'll ask louder, and he'll ask louder. Do you like to ask? See? How do I get control of this? I don't know. It's out of control. Do you like to ask for help? I hate asking for help. I hate asking for help. Why is that? It's a non-rational thing, but we're wired in that way somehow. We take it that somehow we have this self-esteem thing going on, and we're diminished if we ask for help. Do you know, I did some kind of background research this week. The difference in life expectancy between men and women is 5 years. So men tend to live to the age of now 76, and women live to about 81, all right, 5 years. So this one researcher said that he could account for 1 year because of the biological differences between men and women. Testosterone is hard on your system. And so it makes it harder, your hard driving kind of thing. So it's hard on your cardiovascular system. So 1 year, you get credit for 1 year. He said the other 4 years are because men, in some way, some fashion or other, don't ask for help. I hear the silence. Yeah. So men in general don't go to the doctors as often as they're supposed to. And when they go to the doctors, they generally don't follow their advice because they think they know better. Right? Oh, this group of women is just they're into this. They take on too much. They take on things that are too risky, and they do it without support or help. And so it becomes dangerous. So I was reminding, I'm guilty. So a few years ago, I was at the end of one of our house, there's a tree that grew up close to the end of the house, and the limbs were over the roof and coming down, touching on the roof, and I said that it just bugged me. It needs to stop that. And so one day on my day off, late afternoon, I decided, just on a whim, I said, I'm going to take care of that. So I go into the garage. I get a ladder. I go put the ladder up next to the roof, and I grab a saw, and I have my flip-flops on, and I start climbing the ladder, and I get up to the top of the ladder. I get on the roof. I cut off those limbs. And I'm holding the saw, and I'm looking down the ladder. The ladder was wobbly as I was getting up, and I thought, and one word came to my mind: idiot. Just an idiot. So there's nobody around, nobody. Darla's gone, she's working, none of the neighbors are around there, and I'm there with a saw. And it's like, so if I try to climb down this ladder and I fall on this saw and I kill myself today, on my tombstone, I want my birth date, my death date, I don't want my name. I just want idiot right there. Now, so Darla, on the other hand, she finds out about a tree service. She makes a phone call, and she has the tree removed. And so I said, well, yeah, you can do that too. We don't like to ask for help. And yet, we know that we need help. If we have been clear about that first piece, about recognizing our need, recognizing the fact that we are fallible human beings, we are created with needs. We are created not to be independent. We are created to need others. And so to be able to ask for help means wisdom and humility, two things that are fundamental to our spiritual, psychological, and emotional health. Bartimaeus doesn't care what he looks like. He doesn't care how big a fool he is. He knows that he needs help. And when people tell him to quiet down, he just gets louder. And then the third thing. So he recognizes his need and he calls for help, but he doesn't just call anybody for help. He calls Jesus for help. So let me get these words right. Son of David, Jesus, mercy, have mercy on me. Son of David, Jesus, mercy, have mercy on me. So that's a packed expression there. So he calls him Jesus, which is the same Jewish word, Hebrew word for Joshua, which is the great redeemer from the Old Testament who helped to take the children of Israel into the promised land. So this is Jesus, who's our deliverer, son of David, meaning the one who is in the line of King David, the one who is the legitimate ruler, the one who has authority and power. He's the strong guy. So there's a lot of confidence in the power and ability of Jesus that he's confessing. But that's not all. Because there are a lot of powerful, strong people in this world. You don't want to attract their attention. Right? When they go by, you just want to stay quiet. You want to get in the shadows, and you can't wait till they pass by because you don't want anything to do with them because they'll stomp on you, right? That's not how he sees Jesus. Jesus, son of David, mercy, have mercy on me. This son of David is compassionate. He understands weakness. He expects it. He recognizes it. And he's the one who hears the cry of Bartimaeus and responds. Bring him over here. There's something about Jesus that not only does he have the power, this awesome power to make a difference, but he wants to. You know, sometimes I think I spend half of my prayer time trying to convince God why it is that he should care. But Jesus cares far more than I'll ever understand. And so this opportunity to just bring our cry to him, knowing that he's eager to respond, and does quickly. And he's got ears that hear the cries of our hearts. And when you have confidence in the one that you're crying out to, that you know that they are powerful, and you know they are compassionate, it just makes all the difference in the world. It gives you all kinds of confidence in dealing with them. So I think of this story. So it's another roof story. I don't know what it is about me and roofs. But my sister and I, we were young, so I was probably 7, 8. And my sister Wendy and I were in the backyard playing frisbee, catch with a frisbee. And one of us threw the Frisbee and it went up on the roof. And so I was eager, having, kind of regular, ready to kind of be the rescuer for the day. So I ran over to a side wall. There's a planter on the outside, so there's a planter. Climb up on the planter, grab the edge of the wall, shimmy up the wall, kind of make my way over to the side of the roof, climb up on the roof, get up there, go over to where the Frisbee is, and throw the Frisbee down. So I'm the champion, right, hero of the day. And then I go back over to climb down the roof, and that's a really long ways down. And the idea that I would put myself over there and my feet maybe not kind of hit where they're supposed to hit, and I broke out in sweats. It's like, this is scary. And so I went back to where my sister was, and I said, I can't get down. I'm scared. And she just looks at me. So she's about 4 years older than me, so like 11, 12. We were oftentimes competitive and challenging each other, daring each other. And so she just looks up at me and she says, well, jump. Well, I had no confidence in the fact that she was going to try to catch me. And even if she did try to catch me, it'd be a disaster. And so there's no way I'm doing that. And so I just started calling. I said, "Help! Somebody else! Is somebody else there? Help! Help! Help!" So I just started screaming my head off, "Help!" And the door opened, and my big brother walked out. His name is Roger, and he's about 12 years older than me. And just as background, right now, so Roger is struggling with pancreatic cancer, but he has always been my hero. So at that point, so he was in the National Guard. He had his fatigues. He served in the National Guard at a dicey time in this country during the race riots, and so he spent time in conflict in Detroit, which was a terrible place to be during that time. He was strong. He was fit. He could do push-ups with me sitting on his shoulders. I just admired him, and he spent time with me. He liked me, and so he walked out, and he turned around. And he looked up at me, and he put up his arms, and he said, "Jump." I didn't think for a second. I just pushed off the roof and landed in his arms, and with a chuckle from both of us. Who you believe in matters. That they're strong enough to follow through, to help you with what you need, and that they're compassionate, that they love you, that they like you, that they want to see you prosper and grow. Jesus offers us that opportunity to be able to know day in, day out, over the years, as we identify what it is that we need, sometimes rightly and sometimes wrongly, we bring our cry to him, and he responds day in, day out, week in, month in, year in, over time, seeing how it is that Jesus responds, and finding him to be up to the task and compassionate. Bartimaeus is our mentor. He's our model, he's our leader of what it means to follow Jesus, to have this opportunity awakened in us, and then to continue to follow him so that we can learn more, take more risks, do more things, and see him working us to grow. And so we're here as the community of followers of Jesus, ready to press in for another day. Amen. So let's stand together.